Day 79. Still here, still kicking, still trying. Let's talk about what's going on with the truck. So, got the rotors on. And these are the rotors that I've talked about. Clint at Casco Logics did some machine work on these rotors for me. This pattern out here is the old 5 on 5.5 bolt pattern. Ford truck for years. The one that there is very few wheel choices for. I'm just going to put it like that. A couple of factory steel wheel choices that are kind of cool. The Dodge 1500 two-wheel drive. That's what I had on the 57, 17-inch steel. The 20-inch, they've got a 20-inch steel also that they used for spares for those Dodge 1500s that came with the big 20-inch aluminum wheels. Most of those had a steel spare stuck underneath them that was a 20-inch steel wheel. Pretty cool option. I never used any of those personally, but I had those 17s on the 57. There's a couple of, aluminum wheel choices, but nothing, you don't have a great array of choices. So Clint was kind enough to machine these rotors for me. He turned down the center so they would fit my wheel, my US wheel, Steely, and he re-drilled and gave me a 5 on 4.5 bolt pattern. So I could switch back and forth if I want to. I will never, ever, 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 I'm sure, use this old bolt pattern. But it's here if I need it. Brand new rotors. I've been getting a majority of my stuff. I got most of my brake parts, I think pretty much all my brake parts, from Napa. A couple of guys up there in my local Napa are great to deal with. So, no fault of anybody, but I got to tell you this story. So, the two rotors I take over to Clint to machine. He practiced on my old rotor, one of my old rotors. And these are the rotors for a 78, because that's what I pulled the spindles off of, and the front suspension. Okay, so take them over to Clint, and he drills them out for me, and machines and takes care of everything for me. Gets them back to me. He doesn't have a press, so I run them over to Wendell's house to press the studs back in. 5 of them press in great. It would be the rotor on the other side that I was not just showing you. These will not press in at all, even with the press. So start doing some measuring and trying to figure out what went wrong. These studs are 10 thousandths bigger than the other side studs. Bought the rotors at Napa. Different size studs. So Clint had machined them for the size of the other side. So here's a problem. Well, no problem. I'll find 5 studs that fit. Take my micrometer and I'm bebopping to the parts store and try O'Reilly's. The 12-year-old kid behind the counter at O'Reilly's. Clueless. Yeah. Sorry, O'Reilly's. Couple other places. Check my local Tractor Supply. They usually carry a pretty good selection of wheel studs for trailers and stuff like that. Nothing. Multiple places. End up back at Napa. I talked to one of the guys at Napa. He said, yeah, I see in 78 they had 2 different wheel stud choices for the F-150. 2 different choices? Okay. And he pulled them up, and one looked like this, and one looked like my other side. Okay. So he orders me 5 of the ones that fit, at least by visual. They come in, not even close to what these were. Not even close to what the other sides were. Long story short, I have never been so frustrated about something. Literally 2 to 3 days of jacking around, chasing around, trying to find studs. Finally get back with Clint, and I said, hey, I don't know what to do here. What's your thoughts? How would you fix this? He said, bring them over. bring the rotor, bring them over, and let's see what we got to do. And I did last night. And again, thank you, Clint. Saved me many more hours and days of grief. What we did was he chalked them up in the lathe and turned them down just a hair. I mean, is that a machinist measurement, a hair? It was just a wee bit. A skosh? What else is a tiny measurement? Yeah. Anyway, they're done. I pulled them in just like I drew them in just like I always do for any other stud I've replaced, with an impact and a lug nut, and it pulled them in. Left the knurls on them. Didn't mess with the knurls. Just turned down that area before the knurls. Like I said, just probably didn't even turn them down 10 thousandths. I think I think one of them actually 7 thousandths, somewhere around there. Anyway, thank you, Clint, for taking the time to go back through, chalk up all the freaking wheel studs into the lathe and turn them down just a hair so I could draw them into here and we can get back to business. So I was so excited that he did that for me that I went ahead and got them put on last night. So by the time I got done jacking around with that, though, I was not going to deal with brakes. So tonight we are putting in the new calipers, putting those on, get my lines hooked up. I did some, the other night I was out here and I was like a full-blown squirrel on steroids. And I was going to put in my fuel tank because I need to run my lines, which is a whole other batch of frustration, but I finally got figured out. So here's the tank. I've talked about it before. It's the rear tank out of that 92 of Larry's. And my plan is, just for now, to get me back and forth on this power tour, I am mounting this tank at the front of my bed, onto the bed floor, strapping it down. Maybe I'll use bungee cords. Maybe I'll use ratchets. No, I'm just kidding. I'm going to use some metal bands. I'm going to strap it down. But this has everything in it already. I mean, it's got the pump. It's got it. It came out of that truck, driving truck. So this tank is going in it to get me back and forth. I'll figure out what I'm going to do later on a permanent tank, but this tank is going to be my tank for now. So the plan was mount it in the bed and figure it out from there. Well, long story short, I've got a guy coming, Cam and I have a guy coming to do some blasting work on some parts for the truck, and he's going to do several things, but this bed is one of the things I was going to have him do. The inside of the bed, around the edges, the sides, not the floor because it was trashed. You guys have seen that. It was rusted through in multiple places. So I'm out here to mess with that tank and run my fuel lines. I'm using S.U.R.R fuel lines. Factory type, that nylon plastic fuel lines with the quick connect fittings. I'm going to put a filter in line just like the factory stuff. I want to be able to use stuff, if I break somewhere, I want to be able to use stuff that I can get at a regular parts store. So I was going to get Dorman stuff. I had a hard time sourcing some Dorman stuff. Found this place called S.U.R.R, S-U.R.R. They're actually, their headquarters is in Missouri. Republic, Missouri, I think. Anyway, I get on the phone with the tech guy there. At least he was the guy that answered the phone. Greatest dude. Walked me through exactly what I was going to need. Gave me part numbers. This, that, and the other. And the reason I stumbled across this S.U.R.R stuff is they have it at Advanced Auto. I don't know what it is about parts places nowadays, but when I walk into a parts place, if I go up to the counter and there's not a guy that's my age, 51 or older, I struggle because I don't want to stereotype, but it seems like anybody younger than me doesn't know shit from Shinola. So, it's just, the frustrations continue. Anyway, Advanced Auto Parts, they tell me they have these fittings. I go up and I'm like, okay, what do you think I'm going to need for this? Oh, I don't know. I don't really know anything about these. Hey, so-and-so, what do you know about these fittings? They had a whole box of them, but nobody knew anything about them. 4 different guys at Advance Auto knew this much about these S.U.R.R fittings, S-U.R.R. But so I went through the box, just trying to figure out for myself what I would need to do my complete fuel lines. And I found a majority of everything that I needed just by eyeballing it and figuring it out. It wasn't hard. Every guy at Advance had walked away from me and left me sitting there with that box to go through it on my own. I was so impressed with the fittings themselves and the design of them. None of those stupid little spring lock clips with the special tool and all that stuff. It all is, I'll have to get them out and show them to you. It's all spring loaded. It's awesome stuff. So I call S.U.R.R. I get the guy on the phone. He walks me through everything I'm going to need. Gives me part numbers. Gives me, so my last question was, I told him the story about Advance. And he said, well, the problem is we send them that stuff and nobody knows anything and nobody asks any questions. And we try to give them education on it, but they don't take it, and turnover and this, that, and the other. One excuse after another. But so my last question was, where else can I source these things in the Kansas City area? And he said, there's a place called Al's Auto Parts. There's one over in Shawnee on the Kansas side, Shawnee Mission, Kansas, over off of Neiman Road. And I think there's one up in North Kansas City area somewhere. Thought, okay, I'm always running over to the Kansas side. It's not too far from LMC. Seems like I'm making trips over there consecutively. All right, I'll get a hold of somebody over there. Got a hold of a dude named Nick at Al's Auto. You know what? I'm impressed because he was a younger dude. But not only am I impressed because of that, I was impressed because he gave a shit. And he didn't know a lot about S.U.R.R fittings. He knew a lot about parts, but he didn't know a lot about S.U.R.R fittings. But he stuck with me and he worked with me and he helped me. I walked out of there. I spent a lot of money on them, more than what I wanted to. But it was mainly not because of the fittings. It's because you had to buy rolls of line. And the rolls of line were not cheap. 60, 70 bucks. So by the time you do 2 rolls of line for the 3/8 and the 5/16, by the time you do that, and by the time you get all your fittings, I spent 200 bucks on fuel lines. But I'll be able to change those things out. I'll be able to do whatever I need. When I go to extend it and bring it back and put my tank in a different place, it'll be a quick fix. If I'm broken down on the side of the road somewhere because of that, quick fix, easy stuff to work with. So kudos to Al's Auto Parts. Kudos to S.U.R.R, the guy at S.U.R.R who helped me out. I forget his name. If you need fuel lines, research S.U.R.R, S-U.R.R. I think it's S-U.R. and R. I don't remember what it stands for, but quality stuff. I'll do a video of when I build the line. I'm rambling, but there's a reason for this. Because when I got the line, got all the parts from the line, I came out the other night, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to build this line. I'm going to get that tank set where I want to set it, and I'm going to build this line. I'm going to show you what ended up happening. This ended up happening. So, I started to put the tank in, and then I started thinking, okay, I'm going to have that guy out here blasting. All right, well, I didn't really want him to waste time blasting the floor because it was so shot, but I did want him to blast these areas here, so I don't have to sand any of that. I'm going to have him blast the back and probably the front of the tailgate. I wanted him to blast this panel, and on the opposite side, on the front, I wanted him to blast all of this stuff and all this. So I'm like, well, I kind of want to have an idea what I'm going to do on my floor before he starts blasting. So I start cutting along this front edge because my whole plan the whole time has been to use the bed floor out of that bed, cut it down, and set it into this bed. The more I research that thought, the more I think that's going to be probably a week-long deal by itself. So I've moved on from that thought process, and I'm going to do something different. And I'll go into details as I go, but this is what happened. I cut it out because I wanted to start trimming all this. So tonight I'll probably trim off these pieces so I can see the actual rail cross members. I'll probably do some other trimming. While I'm doing that, I'm thinking, oh, you know what? I got to cut these tubs anyway. So I'm going to cut the tubs. I'm going to bring them out 2 inches and figure all this stuff out, how I'm going to mount these. I could do all my marking, figure out exactly my cut line where I'm going to go. And then I think, you know what? I should probably put my mounted, the only one I have, tire and wheel, since I had to send back the other one. I probably should put it on because I haven't put those on. I knew where the wheels were going to land, but I haven't put one on since I had the tire mounted. I put the tire and wheel on and realized I don't think I have to cut these. They're tight right now. It's got this silly little, and I'm sure you bump side guys know this. It's got this silly little bump out right here. And I'm sure it's for strength. It's probably what it's in there for, design. Maybe this would be a little flimsy if it didn't have this stamped in here to give it some strength. Well, you bump side guys that run wide tires have probably run into this being a problem because it sticks out damn near an inch. And if you're using up every, quarter of an inch, every little bit of space that you need for a big fat tire, that's probably gotten in your guys' way before. So what I'm going to do is cut it out. The tire is hitting on that. So I'm getting rid of that. I'm going to cut that out. I'm going to put a flat piece in there. It's close to everything else. So what I'm going to do, I don't want to worry about it. It's rubbing all the time and tearing up my tires. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of that. And then I am going to weld a brace. I'm actually going to put a brace, probably a 1x1 square tube, all the way down here from front to back. And I'm going to take this inner wall of this tub and I'm going to form it out to that brace about an inch out farther than what it is. I should be able to do that with no problem. I'm just going to pull it out and I'm going to run that, and I think I can do it. Same thing on this side. I'm going to come out probably an inch. I'm going to mount that 1x1 and I'm going to bring this edge of this tub out to that 1x1. I think it'll work, guys. I don't think I'm going to have to cut these tubs. More to come on that. That's my plan. So I'm going to run some inch by inch here, inch by inch here. Probably run some cross braces. I'm going to build a mount to mount my tank on. And then you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to pick up a plastic bed liner and I'm going to carefully trim out that plastic bed liner. And I'm going to sit it on all those braces and just screw it into those braces for now. Mount that tank there and call it good for this trip. I don't know. Some people may not agree that that's the best idea. I'm going to do something else later. If I do not sell that long bed, I've got a guy that could possibly be interested in that long bed. If I do not sell that, I will use the floor out of it more than likely when it comes down to it. But I'm telling you, that is going to be, there are so many spot welds on this bed floor that going to these braces, there's a ton of spot welds all the way across here and all across there and all across that one up there and down here. I mean, there's a ton of them, and I'm either going to have to drill those out or do something. So I am not going to do that for this trip. There's no way I would have time to do that. I'm at day 79. So that's where I'm at on that. It's good news that I may not have to cut these. I should be able to run without cutting those. I'll get the one by one and get this bracing done. I'll get the inside of this bed blasted if the guy shows up this weekend like he's supposed to, and I'll have something to work with. Now, what I did realize after I cut these out and was kind of looking more at my brake lines is when I put those brake lines in, yeah, I wasn't thinking too clearly, obviously, because I haven't put my C-notch in yet. And this probably wouldn't be an issue. I don't know that I'm going to have that C-notch in before I go on the trip because it's not an absolute necessity. So it's kind of at the low end of the priority. But look at those brake lines that run right across the top of the rear end. If that thing is to bottom out, where's it going to bottom out? Right there at that lip right there. And you know what it's going to hit? The brake line. And you know what will happen? It'll cut the brake line. And then you know what will happen? My brake pedal will go to the floor. So luckily I sat there and realized that the other night. So this one was just a hair short anyway. So what I'm going to do is build 2 new brake lines. And I'm going to go from here, around here, and go to the rear of the axle, which is what I should have done to start with. Hey, what did I tell you? Not my comfort zone, not my thing. I'm going to learn as I go, and that's what I'm going to do. So I'll run them along the back of the rear end. That way if something flies up, hits in here, it's a little bit protected, at least by the axle tube. So that's the plan on that. Got to redo the brake lines. It won't be the first or last thing I'm going to have to redo on this thing. And all right, dash. Cam was out the other night and really was kicking booty in here. I got pulled away a couple of times. Lights were working. Ignition seemed to be working. Windshield wipers working. Flashers were working. Turn signals were working. Everything was working. I came in here, the actual lights, these bulbs were working. Notice I'm saying were. So I come in that night after he's calling it a night. It's probably 10:30. It's getting ready to storm, and I mean storm. It's getting ready to let loose. And I come in here and I'm like, man, I'm doing this and that, and I pull this flasher switch. And everything after I pulled that flasher switch went to hell. Everything started acting goofy. I don't even remember why I did it, but I did for some reason, and something went awry. So we jacked with it a little bit more and then finally said, okay, we're done. Who knows? Maybe I nudged something else. Maybe I screwed up something else. I don't know. But I think, and I probably should have done this to start with, I went and bought a new turn signal switch. He thinks it could have something to do with that. Just to roll them out, I got them both. I bought that. They had them both in stock at LMC. Got that. A couple other things. I can't even remember what all I got in there. But they came through. LMC came through with some parts, so we'll see how everything goes here. There's the signal switch. There's the flasher switch. I don't even remember what else. Oh, I got my heater valve. Just doing that once, I guess. And just some other miscellaneous stuff. I don't even remember what all I got. But, so that's where we're at on the dash. He's supposed to try to come back out tonight. He's on call, so may not make it. And put these in and see if that helps the problem. And, I bought a dimmer switch and a little cap for that while I was there as well, because that switch was pretty weak. He was testing that the other night. He cleaned it up and it actually started working okay, but it was a whopping $5 at LMC. So I went ahead and got that. My heater blower fan was working. The blower itself, he took that apart when he redid my heater box and kind of tried to oil it up, and it didn't work out too well. Well, looky there. My man.
What are you doing?
I was just talking about you.
Well, good.
Yes, it was good. It was all good.
Okay.
What's up?
Sorry. I'm getting ready to come to your place. I couldn't remember what all it was we had discussed you picking up. So run down the list of things you picked up.
I was just talking about that too. I picked up the turn signal switch. I picked up the flasher switch.
Okay.
I picked up the dimmer switch.
Okay.
I think that is it as far as you. I mean, I picked up some heater hoses and some other miscellaneous stuff.
Do you have a flasher, like the little plug-in round barrel-shaped thingy-bobs?
No.
Any of those?
No, I did not get any of those.
Not a big deal. They're easy to change. Jay kind of showed me when we were screwing around with Jay's stuff. It kind of reminded me that flashers, if they're not right, they'll act like a bad ground.
Oh, okay.
So, and it took me screwing with Jay's to figure that out. So, if you've got a couple good ones laying around, that's fine, and I'm pretty sure yours are good. But I in the long run, I would replace those as well. So, just FYI. So.
Yeah, I wish I would have thought to do that because.
Well, that shit you can order on Amazon. They can send you the heavy duty ones even for cheap. So.
Yeah, and I can grab.
Make a special trip.
Well, I'm sure I'm going into town for something tomorrow, or Shannon's going into town for something tomorrow. I can just have her pick up one at O'Reilly's or Advance or Napa or someplace.
I don't remember if yours has two separate ones or not.
It does.
Okay, well, get them both.
Yeah, it's got.
And use a good heavy duty one for your four-way.
Okay.
Because the consequences are worse, I think. That's how we did Jay's. I put one of those nice digital powered ones in Jay's digital. I don't know what it is. It's got a little thing in it. But it's not a typical like heated bimetallic thing in it.
Okay.
So, buy a nice one for your four-ways because they'll get your ass flattened if they don't work.
Okay.
And if your turn signals don't work, nobody really gives a fuck. You usually fix those. So that's an opinion, but that's how I do it. So, all right, then I'm going to bring over some things, but we had it working. So I think other than a couple of little diagnostic things, and I really don't think we'd need much more. So I'm going to bring that stuff over with me, and I'll be on my way.
All right. I'll see you when you get here.
All right, later.
Bye.
Bye.
So there you go. You heard it from the man himself. Anyway, that's the update. Not a whole lot else was done. See if we make any progress tonight, putting in these new parts on the electrical. And I'm so hoping that we can make enough progress that I can put some power to out here and see if we can get, at least maybe a starter crank or something. I've been hoping for that for a long time. Got a couple of heater hoses since I got that heater valve. Got those. I think that's it. So I'm going to get and quit jabbering and get some brakes going. Maybe get some calipers on before he shows up. Day 79. If this thing makes it, I've said it multiple times before. If this thing makes it, it's because of everybody else. Sure as hell ain't because of me. So a little deeper into day 79. Cam's here, saving the day as normal. And got a couple of cool things. Look at those. Look at those. We got regular lights. We got brake lights. We got signals. We're going hog wild here. But wait. There's more. It's like Ronco.
You gotta be out front to see it.
So, what is going on here? What could be going on up here that is so damn exciting
Yeah, because nothing's.
Well, are you? Are you? Oh,
there we go.
oh.
The switch is temperamental. That's
Yes, it is. Oh, the neutral safety switch?
Yeah.
Yes, it is very temperamental. That is cool. So we had a little something going on earlier trying to figure out why we weren't getting power out of the switch. And I'm just going to tell you guys another reason why Cam is here doing this, because we're talking about this.
Way too much credit.
We're talking about what the hell's going on? Why are we not getting? We're getting power with the key on, but we're not getting power trying to start it. Well, about 12 seconds into that, Cam says, "Of course, the neutral safety switch." Ta-da! Behold, the neutral safety switch. So, he was right. The connection's not the greatest, but we fiddled with that a little bit, and I sprayed it and cleaned it out, and lo and behold, it does work. So, I've got another up inside here on my clutch pedal shaft that goes out to the clutch master cylinder is the original switch from the 92 F150. So maybe I'll get creative and wire it into that somehow, or maybe I won't. And it'll be like the 57, and by God, if you have it in gear and you turn that key, the truck's going.
Old school.
So this is exciting. We have cycled the starter just like I was hoping for. And you know what? We might just call this the end of the day and walk away with a win. Day 79. Over.